Hello my loves, I'm Ellie Frost. Thank you so much for being on my channel where we are talking about the multi-dimensional approach to rapidly and radically healing and transforming during and after narcissistic abuse. And I want to talk about dealing with the aftermath of narcissistic abuse. So what do I mean by that? After narcissistic abuse, there's a lot of very difficult, very strong emotions that we haven't processed. With trauma, we've got stuck in an emotion. We haven't been able to process something, right? When we're in the cycle, dealing with the narcissist at an intense level, the body's in what they call the fight and flight response, which is the constant reaction, but you're in kind of fight and flight. When you leave a narcissist, when you're on your own afterwards, when you're contemplating, when the nervous system has a chance to sort of relax a bit, it is very common for strong emotional withdrawals and all the unprocessed emotions and memories to hit you. So it can feel like your life got worse, which isn't the case. The other thing is that this journey, this is why I teach healing and transformation. You've got to, I integrate the spiritual aspect, the healing aspect and the personal development aspect, because we have to learn how to rebuild ourselves, right? Often at times when we're most broken down. Transformation in life, right? Anyone wanting a new career or to reinvent themselves or do something new, make a big move in their life, requires, quite a bit of personal development to get themselves in the right mindset, to motivate themselves, to get strong enough to take risks and, all that kind of stuff. When we leave narcissists, we're often having to rebuild ourselves and rebuild our lives at pretty traumatic times, right? So there's a lot going on. And it's not an easy journey. It's just not. You're in a rock and a hard place. If you're in like close relations with narcissists, yes, you can learn how to minimize their impact on you, which I teach people all the time. How to take back your energy, literally minimize the impact it has on you as much as possible. But they're always gonna try and trauma bond you and hurt you, right? And they're in your life. If they're in your life in some way, it's a destructive energy that's wanting to cause destruction and trauma. When you leave, you're rebuilding often in heavier times. Not always, but you're going to have to rebuild, whether it's you've left a relationship and you've got to rebuild now on your own, whether it's you've left a family unit and that's your whole sense of safety and security and like what you thought your life should be about. There's just so much to this. So to me, healing is like when we reclaim ourselves and we process our wounds, right? And it's not that we need to get stuck in healing. It's that we get stuck in healing when we don't know how to kind of heal and evolve at the same time, which also is something we have to manage our nervous systems, because when we're going into new things, that can, it can feel very scary. But after narcissistic abuse, we've got no choice but to evolve. We have to evolve, right? So I do believe collectively we're wanting to evolve massively on the planet, and at this time there seems to be more narcissists than ever. This kind of shadow darkness has got distorted. It's out of control at the moment. So we're being asked to become much more sovereign, to become much more in our own energy, in our own power, in our own creative essence, so that we can actually create the lives we want, right? Because in narcissistic abuse cycles, you live in suffering anyway. But what we don't know is how to create a life we want. What we need as human beings is a feeling of safety and security. And the narcissist does provide the illusion of that. Although it might be very disruptive, we think it's kind of what we know. So we're going into the unknown, right? And this takes resilience. It takes being able to regulate our nervous system. It takes having a vision for our future that we can't see, right? It takes faith. It takes cultivating the skills to make powerful decisions, which is sometimes big turning points in our lives, right? And having the staying power in the void, the part where it doesn't look like it's working, where it seems like your life might not be going according to plan. Even now you've got challenges you might not have even considered. It feels too much, you're overwhelmed. We've got to be able to regulate that, because the underlying trauma in that is that I can't take care of myself, I can't get what I want, you know what I mean? I can't live a life that I want to have, right? Which isn't true, but we have to become an energetic match to that, which does mean we resolve the traumas of the hopelessness really of the past. Because in narcissistic abuse cycles, it's quite you get so beaten down. So we'd have to transform our lives from a place where we've been beaten down, right? Reclaim our sovereignty there. And without sometimes knowing what we actually want. Like we think, well, I don't know where I want to live. I remember thinking that. I don't even know where I belonged anymore. Like, where on earth do I want to be? So when we come back into ourselves and we trust our guidance system, it's like you kind of get guided, you get intuitive hits, you get inspirations and ideas, and you start working with life differently. I'm teaching a manifestation this week in the last Sovereign course, and I'm talking about co-creating with the universe, that manifestation isn't you trying to control everything. That's coming from our trauma response, right? That we need to control everything. But for most of us that have been through these cycles, we don't have a lot of trust in ourselves, and we don't have a lot of trust in life anymore. So these are just things we have to cultivate, kind of like just build, and sometimes in quite turbulent times, yeah? And we just learn to. We have to cultivate, like I do a piece in there called Coding for Safety, safety in our body. And then we have to start connecting to ways in which we can enjoy our life and being open to what could inspire us, what could fulfill us, and like playing for Living Fully Now, which is my other group, which is if you're wanting to sort of plug into something. It's a membership. It's different to Sovereign. Sovereign is deep healing and trauma. I'm about to start the pre-work in that, right? So if you can join that, do. But also Live Fully Now is about how do I create a life I love, right? It's about weekly themes and processing the emotions that come up that make us revert back, sure, to unhealthy cycles, but actually connecting to a vision for our future, connecting to life again. And part of this is going to be like feeling safe too, because if we don't trust ourselves, how on earth are we going to trust ourselves to create a better life, right? And one of the biggest things that we cling to for the narcissist is safety and security. Even if it's not actually safe with them, it gives us this kind of certainty over our conditions, right? And it can be very, very scary to go into the unknown and think, well, how am I going to be okay? What am I going to do? We're so unaware of our own power at that point, and also we've been so reactive to the dynamic, to what's going on, to pandering to them, to the emotional roller coaster, that we're kind of like not only expecting things to go wrong all the time, but we've not been connected to our hearts enough to like really be creators of our own lives, right? So it's not an easy journey. It's really not. And you do get to take it at your own pace, but it's like we're either going to play for a better life, or we're going to continue to be eroded down and live a life that we know isn't meant for us, where it's just not good for us. And definitely there's techniques I teach people and take them through on how you can manage conversations, how you can manage your energy around narcissists, how you can limit your exposure, all that stuff, right? But beyond that, you're going to be treading water in a miserable life, a disconnected life. And until we come into our hearts and our souls and actually what we want to create and how we want to feel and how we want to be loved and what we want to experience, which is available to us, right? It's just that after a lot of trauma, it doesn't feel like that often, right? But it's totally possible. So when we're not doing that, we kind of get stuck. We're more likely to get stuck in healing, right? Still trying to figure out what's wrong with us, still trying to figure out, when actually the key to healing is I'm dealing with the emotional intensity that I'm being shown now. That's what my body wants to, wants my attention on. So we learn to regulate our emotions in the now, right? What's coming up now, not digging for them, not looking for them, because the body can only release, as much as it can. And if we push it too hard, it kind of contracts and it doesn't release. It just keeps getting stuck. So we want to just like deal with what's coming up now, what's triggering us now, how we're feeling now, self-partner now, so that we can reset. The body starts just naturally. The more kind of you regulate your nervous system, if you've got a lot of trauma, it probably will throw up more stuff as you go, but you'll know how to navigate it, and at the same time be rebuilding our lives, getting clear on our vision, getting clarity on what we want, and start being open to how we can create it, not trying to control it, by being available to be in a receptive state to our own inspiration, to our own ideas, to our own creativity, to our own essence again, right? That's the key to, not going from narcissistic abuse to complete, just staying in a very depressed life, just staying in a very static state where we feel like all we've done is lose something that was bad for us, but now what, right? We want to play for joy. We want to play for love. We want to play for connection. We want to play for, growth in ourselves so that we can actually, cultivate a life we love. Or at least it's got more joy in it, because there's no joy in narcissistic abuse. There's no joy in that whatsoever. It's not available to you there. You're playing for survival, right? So we have to elevate our consciousness. We have to plug in different ways. We have to not obsess over what's wrong with us as much as learn our creative power again in getting what we want in our life. So that's what I wanted to share, guys. Lots of love. I'll speak to you soon.